Joining us now, Congressman from the 6th District, Republican Ben Cline. Congressman, great to have you.
Hey, John, thanks for having me. I'm on my way in the car up to the swamp or petri dish or whatever you want to call it these days to vote on some more assistance for our small businesses, trying to make sure that when we do open up, regardless of which state you're in, there's going to be a small business community ready to serve.
Congressman, the additional funding, which is just under $500 billion, are you voting for that? And tell us if you are, why.
I am, because the small business community needs and deserves the help of the government that, quite frankly, is responsible for the situation they're in right now. And I'm not faulting the advisories and the closures that have happened across this country, because they are necessary for public health. But at the end of the day, what government has done is impacted our small business community in a way that they are responsible for remedying. And so this is a small attempt at a way for government to try and remedy. I wouldn't call it a takings in a legal sense, but we have eminent domain laws where if government comes in and takes your property, they owe you compensation. And what you have in this instance is government, through its laws and through its rules, impacting the small business community in a way that takes profits away from them, and they are responsible for coming in and addressing that problem and compensating businesses for what they have done.
That's a great analogy. I never really thought of it in those terms. We're with Congressman Ben Cline, Republican Congressman, 6th District, Georgia. That's the Lynchburg area through Roanoke. Congressman, that is a very interesting juxtaposition here on this. All right, let's get to some of the realities of the PPP. I think when this was first launched, everybody was excited. Nobody really thought that there would be a loophole for publicly traded companies to get any of this money, like Ruth Chris getting $20 million is probably the biggest example, many others. And you look at that money and you say, okay, there was a loophole there. Publicly traded company has all kinds of access to credit that Joe's Barbershop or Mom's Pie Shop downtown.
All kinds of access to lawyers that can finagle the code to make it work for them, and it's a disgrace that they even thought that they were deserving of this kind of program. They're not. This program was set up for the smallest of businesses, the mom and pop shops, and not for the Ruth Chris, and certainly not for the Harvard universities of the world. They do need to give that money back. Harvard needs to give that money back that they accessed. It was not meant for them, and Lord knows they have access to all kinds of other government programs and funding, and they're sitting on a wealth of money that they've got in their endowment. So let's make sure that this next round is delivered to the businesses and the hardworking men and women who are trying to serve the public right now.
Congressman Cline, are you sure that your caucus is going to demand that those loopholes be written out of the second round?
I think that they are. I think that what I've been hearing through conversations with my caucus members is we're fed up with a lot of the give and take that's going on with Nancy Pelosi, who says one thing, says, we need to deliver for small business, and then holds it up in the Senate. And behind the scenes, she's getting the Kennedy Center money, and she's getting these kinds of deals worked out. And I think that our caucus is going to demand of the administration and Mnuchin and the Senate and Mitch McConnell put their foot down a little bit more when it comes to the House leader, Nancy Pelosi, and make sure that the American people are served and not her priorities, because her priorities are certainly not the priorities of the American people.
Let's get a little closer to home, Congressman Cline. First of all, I agree with everything you've said. I think you're spot on. I mean, there's so many businesses that are suffering, small businesses that, put their application in late. Maybe their bank was a little late to the party. Now they're just locked out because it ran out of money. And then you hear that, Harvard got $9 million. Ruth Chris, a public company that made a profit last year, $240 million, got $20 million. I mean, personally, I will never eat at Ruth Chris Steakhouse again for the remainder of my life ever with anybody at any time. In fact, if somebody says, hey, this is meet me here for dinner, I wouldn't go. I will never go there again. I will never go there again because you know what? As far as I'm concerned, they stole that money, they manipulated it, and they took it, not from the taxpayer, they took it directly from small businesses that are still in line that need that in order to pay their phone bill. I mean, it's really disgusting what they did. The whole thing is just, it turns your stomach. Let's get a little closer to home. University of Virginia, billions of dollars of endowments, gets $12 million. Why?
It is ridiculous. These universities are taking money away from hardworking men and women who are on the front lines in small businesses and restaurants and stores trying to serve the public right now, at risk of losing everything that they've worked for all their lives. And universities are still having classes. They're doing them online. A lot of these universities are still collecting tuition payments and trying to teach their students online. They're not losing money like these small businesses are losing. They're doing just fine, and if they are losing a little bit of money, they can tap those endowment funds. And so for them to claim that they should have access to this fund is wrong. It's despicable. It's unconscionable, and we need to make sure that the administration, and Mnuchin can do this, he can make sure that the rules as they're implemented are written to ensure that those universities do not access this pot of money.
Well, they certainly have a lot of lobbyists running around Washington, D.C., as you know, in their
so many
$10,000 Italian Armani suits and $25,000 Rolex watches. They're like, I mean, you turn the lights on, they scatter like cockroaches in there. I don't know how you stand it. I really don't.
It's a swamp. It really is.
Right? I mean, you just go in the halls. I mean, they're all, and as soon as this funding started coming down the pike, I mean, they descended on the Cannon building and these other buildings. They just descended on them like the movie The Birds. And I mean, it's sickening what you have to deal with there. That's why I always said the best thing about Washington, D.C., where the two of us live during the week, is getting out of there on Friday afternoon and going home and actually talking to real people. Congressman, we're with Congressman Ben Cline, Republican, 6th District, Virginia. Congressman, let's get to Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia opening up a state. The president calling him yesterday saying, maybe this is too fast, too soon. Brian says, okay, well, thank you, but I'm going to go forward with it. Appreciate the call and your opinion, but I'm moving forward. Our show's going to Georgia all next week to celebrate that and also to combat the fake news, which we know is going to be there in overdrive. Do you think Kemp did the right thing?
Well, I'm not going to second guess him. I know he's going to do what's right for his state, and but as Republicans, I think that our general philosophy is and continues to be: we trust the people to make the right decisions for them. Democrats trust the government, and so they're interested in more government, more rules, more control, and Republicans are interested in returning power to the people at a pace that is right for their state. So Governor Kemp is going to do what's right for his state, and hopefully our policymakers will listen to the people instead of listen to those on the left who simply want more control and to needlessly continue these rules past the point at which it's reasonable to reopen. So I'm hoping that we can reopen soon. I'm going to hope that our governor makes the right decisions when it comes to that, and we can reopen soon and restore some order and some normalcy for the public.
Congressman Cline, what did you think about AOC's comments yesterday that there should be a permanent national work strike, that nobody should go back to work until we changed the modus operandi of the U.S. economy, that people had a minimum floor of income no matter what job they had, and she's basically calling for a national walkout.
It's just like I think it was Rahm Emanuel, who's the mayor, or was the mayor of Chicago, said, "Never let a crisis go unused as an opportunity." He saw crisis or opportunity in every crisis, and the left always sees in a crisis an opportunity to expand government, to expand their control over people's lives and in their pockets, and that's why we have to empower the people, empower the hardworking men and women, across this country to make their own decisions, and that's why this bill to help small businesses is so important, to make sure that our small business community thrives, and it's not just government that continues to employ people. You know, you don't hear that much about government laying off people right now. You hear a lot about small businesses and our private sector laying off people, but government's still employing everybody, still running at full capacity plus. So we need to change that around a little bit. Maybe government needs to start furloughing some of their the non-critical workforces across the country.
Well, they'll never do that because that's the that's the Democrats.
Oh, they're all essential, right? Every government worker is essential, right?
I mean, yeah, it's so. I mean, and it is kind of surreal. I had Dr. Cline on a few minutes ago, epidemiologist, and one of the things he said is, you know, the people that are clamoring to keep everything shut down, all of them that are saying this are in a situation where they're not affected financially, or they're safe, right? They have government jobs, or they're paid by some kind of an agency. None of these people are in the private sector, own businesses, have jobs, have been furloughed, have been laid off. None of them are feeling any of the pain. So in their mind, just go ahead and shut it down. I want to shift here a minute. The president on Monday issuing, or actually did it yesterday, he tweeted it Monday, issued the order yesterday that he was going to suspend immigration for 60 days. Now, states are shut down. 4.5 new unemployment claims filed today, bringing the total to just under 27 million since March 14th. We have about 150 million people in the workforce, so we're talking about, what is that? It's about 20% of the entire American workforce now filing for unemployment. I mean, it's a staggering number. And the president calling for a 60-day immigration lockdown. And his point is, if we're sheltering in place and we can't go out and we can't go to the store, or we can't buy a flag, and we can't plant a flower in Michigan, why are we letting people in the United States? Why don't we just shut that down also? Because, you know, either we're going to be safe or not. Plus, he said, we have to worry about getting Americans back to work, not giving job to immigrants. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I think the government, the president's being responsible in saying, let's catch our collective breath when it comes to this economy, which is under siege right now. It is a crisis right now that is changing every day. You see the unemployment numbers skyrocketing at a rate never seen before, and you don't know what sectors of the economy those are in. You have to look at what sectors those are in. You have to look at where the temporary workers are coming in and where they're going to work, if they are going to work. And so you have to ask yourself, is it necessary to continue the immigration programs, keep them on autopilot the way that they've always been run when our economy is so fundamentally changed over the past 60 days? So I think it's entirely responsible for him to say, let's catch our collective breath. Let's look at what is needed. Let's look at the areas of the economy where we need workers. Let's see if there is a shift of American workers from certain sectors, certain service sectors, over to certain manufacturing sectors, or vice versa. And then we'll look at whether the ag sector still needs workers in its economy, or whether people who are declaring unemployment are going back to work in the ag sector that needs these employees. So I think it's entirely responsible, and I think that the economy will bear that out as we catch our collective breath.
Congressman Ben Cline, let's get to voting, and let's go specifically to Virginia. We got a lot of conventions now that are in flux. No one knows how they're going to pick nominees. But then the bigger issue is the governor tried to put off some municipal voting until November. Chap Peterson squashed that and said you can't overrule community charters because of a panic. You're just not going to do that.
Yeah, so I'm proud of Chap this session. He's done some good things. He took some bad votes, but he also stopped some bad bills, some bad Second Amendment bills, and he's also teamed up with our good friend Pete Snyder to run a fund to help businesses affected by COVID-19, and so Chap, and I would congratulate him if I saw him, but he was in Richmond yesterday, and I was back here in the Valley.
Well, you're doing that over the radio right now. Chap Peterson, Democrat State Senator Fairfax, I happen to agree with you, did a good job. He single-handedly stopped this thing yesterday, and he said, look, we don't have the right to just overturn local city charters about when they're going to elect their officials, and we're not going to do it because somebody's panicking. And he said the whole thing was really, he didn't trust it. But what Virginia passed was all these voting laws were no ID. You could vote, 45 days out, get an absentee ballot whenever you want. I guess that invites vote harvesting.
Yeah, I'm not happy you voted for that stuff.
I mean, yeah, he did vote for that. But how does that affect the integrity of voting in Virginia?
Oh, it definitely raises doubts about Virginia when you take away a lot of those safeguards, a lot of those guardrails that are in place. We have a system where you can go in and get an identification card from your DMV without having to pay anything for it to use as ID for voting. It's not a hard step. You use ID in so many other countless areas of the economy, and so it just begs the question: what are they trying to accomplish on the left by removing that requirement and allowing people who otherwise can't get access or can't somehow have an ID, can't produce an ID? And we were very generous in what we consider to be an ID. A utility bill, I think, was being offered at some point. A phone bill or some kind of record of residence was part of what could be produced as some identification to qualify for voting. I think that those are reasonable requests that you should be asked to produce some proof of ID when you have proof of people who shouldn't be eligible to vote voting. We had that in Harrisonburg, where we had students double voting, where we have individuals registering people who weren't eligible to vote. And we, when I was working for the prosecutor's office, Marcia Gars took them to court to make sure that they were prosecuted for illegally voting in Harrisonburg.
Unbelievable. Congressman Ben Cline, on your way to Washington, D.C. to vote for the Phase 4 stimulus or the son of PPP, whatever you want to say it is. But thank you. Thank you for your time today, sir. Thank you for being with us.